Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. Welcome to the full-time show. What a win for Arsenal. A 2-0 win at St James's Park. It was a heated affair. It was a hot affair. It looked sunny out there. And Arsenal just matched Newcastle's intensity. I thought on the ball were brilliant. I thought tactically were fascinating. I thought Arteta got everything right from the starting 11 to the subs. We're going to explore all that here on the full-time show. Welcome to your full-time debut.
Yeah, it's my debut, man. I'm excited to be here always.
I'm excited to break it down. Now remember, this is FANZONE, which means in about 15 minutes we open the lines and we can talk directly to you to get your thoughts on the game. Anything you want to talk about, bring it here. All you have to do is download the AFTV Plus app. It's all free to do, free to sign up, and then via the app you can jump on and chat to us about the game. I'm sweating, man. That was just like, that was intense. I felt like as a fan I was in it with the players because Newcastle started to give it. It became a I guess you'd call it. They weren't over. It wasn't over the line, but it was a very physical battle. I thought it was a little naughty at times from Newcastle, some of the antics. But Arsenal gave it back as good as they got, and then I think that was a bit of a throwback game because of it. Yeah,
I agree. Definitely goes you back to the opponents were always going to try and kick the Arsenal, and we were going to try and play our football, but we look like we've evolved.
Yeah,
you know, that's the exciting thing. We look like we can do some of the rough and ugly stuff, and we can obviously play football as well. And we saw that there were some moments where, as they were trying to foul us, we just moved the ball so beautifully around them. A few of them will probably go largely unhighlighted because they didn't lead directly to goals. But some of the way we dealt with the press, some of the kind of controlled aggression and pressing in certain zones was really, really smart. And you know, we've seen Ødegaard and Jesus going and pressing goalkeepers. Today we didn't see that. We let them try to play out a little bit, and then once they got into that part between the edge of their box and the centre circle, that's when we pressed and got real success out of there. It was very, very controlled, and like I say, it was a big learning job. You know, we see that not only is the team developing, but Arteta is still very much learning on the job.
Yeah, it's a really weird one, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people are saying on Twitter, well, you know, Arsenal, you know, if they'd done this before, Kivior had started in previous games, if, you know, that was the main one, Jorginho coming earlier for Partey, all these things. I don't know if we get this change and this response if the bad bits didn't happen. And that's not to say, look, Kivior should have started. I'm not saying it was right he started Holding. But I think what's so impressive about Arsenal is almost... Actually, do I mean what I'm about to say? I guess what I'm trying to say is it's kind of a surprise to us all. No, actually, do you know what? I take back. I was going to say, would we have got this response had they always been in from the start? I think we actually probably would have. Say,
is it a bit like when Arsenal beat Conte's Chelsea? Then he went to a back five off the back of that, and then they went on to win the league.
Yes,
you know, it's almost that you need to go through that adversity in order to grow into eventually being champions.
Yeah, I think so. Now with the starting 11, I think fair to the fans, they had been calling not for so much Jorginho to come in. They did for the Chelsea game, but for Kivior. Everyone's saying bring Kivior, move Partey to right back or whatever.
Or at least not start Holding. That was the key.
That was the key thing.
Yeah.
And actually, the way Jorginho is playing, you're thinking, well, White could have slotted into centre back and Partey could have gone to right back absolutely fine. But Kivior has been brilliant. We're going to talk about his performance. I think it's more, see what happened at the Etihad, where we didn't just lose, we didn't just get outplayed. There was no kind of fight. I was in this Arsenal going, where you're not fronting them up, you're not getting in their face, you're not, you know, at least making it awkward for them, at least sending them off with a few, you know, niggly injuries or whatever to show that you'd thrown it about.
Bit of pride.
Right, exactly, something like that. But I don't think we get this response against Newcastle. I think Arsenal came into this Newcastle game going, we're actually really disappointed in the account we showed of ourselves in that game at the Etihad. And I think you saw that out there today. They wanted to remind everyone, hold on, we can give as good as we get.
Yeah, maybe even conceding that goal against Chelsea, you know, and not keeping a clean sheet. You know, we've got a clean sheet today at one of the toughest away grounds. You know, Man City themselves drew 3-3 at that same ground against that same team. And actually, there's, you know, we know Arteta enough from the documentary. I know it's not all, you know, exactly as it is, but we know broadly what the team talk is going to look like. Okay, you've gone out there and dominated a game for 90 minutes, but you still haven't come with a clean sheet. The fans deserve more, etc., etc. And to put a little bit of fear into Newcastle as well, because we have completely played them off the park today. They weren't able to beat us in terms of football, but they also weren't able to beat us in terms of actual, not physicality. They won a lot of the duels on paper, but it didn't rattle us. It didn't take us out of our game plan. Newcastle will be a top 4 contender, possibly a title contender next season. And we have to put the fear into them early. They got 0-0 against us at our ground. go and make a statement, and that's exactly what the players did today.
Yeah, I felt that actually what is so satisfying about this win is that Newcastle did come close. I know what you mean. I actually think Arsenal were how do I put it? I think Arsenal were quite significantly better than Newcastle. Not that we had more big chances than they had big chances, although we probably did. I think it was more that Arsenal had more of a game plan, had more focus. They channeled their aggression better. I think Newcastle got a lot of those kind of elements wrong. But they still had plenty of quality. Isak still had moments. He puts on a plate for Willock. And Xhaka makes a great block. I think Isak hits the post. Murphy hits the post in the first few minutes. The penalty that's then overturned. Like they had their moments in the game where we really had to dig in. I think had we kind of sailed through this to a 2-0, 3-0, 4-0 win, I think the hindsight would have been, but Newcastle were really off it today. I don't think Newcastle were that off it today. Correct. I think as the temperature rose and the fans got louder and the ref was sort of giving some fouls, not giving others, and there were lots of spats, which I thought, by the way, made for a great throwback. Like I said, I thought Arsenal rose to that much better than Newcastle.
Yeah, that's what made it look like a bottling when we played Man City. That's when we were arguing about, was it a bottling, was it not, for all the other games. But most Arsenal fans turned around and said, okay, this Man City game's a bottling because of the performance. It wasn't competitive, and that was a real shame. And like you say, today, I think that what you're alluding to is that we had a plan A and a plan B. We were able to switch things up. There were times we started off, everyone knows we play from the back. Everybody knows that. But today we didn't start off playing from the back. Actually, we started off soaking up the pressure, hitting it long, and then once we got our goal and hit them on counter-attacks and went and got ourselves a goal, then we started growing into the game. We had much more of a controlled game plan and multiple game plans, where Newcastle were very good and very competitive, full respect to them, but they had one plan. And their plan was to try and get physical. We've got big physical bodies, and maybe we'll get a goal from a set piece across. That's pretty much where we're going to get our goals from. And if that didn't work, they weren't able to change to something different.
I think we've got to shout out the players, the starting 11, and Arteta for his subs. So where do you want to start?
I mean, the starting 11 for sure. Jakub Kiwior, he looked shaky when he come off the bench, and he tried to do that sort of Rob Holding role of going to a back five and seeing games out a couple of times, and it just didn't work. And then he comes in for some bigger games against the Chelsea and against Newcastle, when you really, really worry. When he started to come in for his start, I just thought, is he ready? But actually, he looks much better coming in, starting. He is playing out of position as well. And like I said, playing against Chelsea, I know they're off the boil, but they are a super team on paper, and ex-Champions League winners and all the rest of it. So baptism of fire a little bit, and baptism of fire again for this Newcastle game. One of the atmospheres of the season, in my opinion. And he dealt with that really, really well. So definitely a shout out to him. And then Jorginho, being a real leader, everything from start to finish. Ødegaard deserves credit for getting us the goal when we were under the cosh. His goal and his sort of initiative switches the entire momentum.
His first half, he was unbelievable.
Unbelievable, completely unplayable. But Jorginho, for the full 90 minutes, just controlling and talking and shouting and guiding and bringing all of that experience, all of the stuff. We have such a checkered history of signings at Arsenal that it's great for us to look back in hindsight and say, if we get Jorginho, especially one from Chelsea, and say, if we get Jorginho, he brings X, Y, and Z. He brings experience and leadership and whatever. And actually, he's bringing all these things.
Right.
And it's great.
And that's very difficult to quantify, right? Maybe over a 38-game season, you can look at the games we played with Jorginho, the games we played without, and maybe there's something there. But generally, very difficult to quantify experience. But when you're watching that, it's actually difficult to see it as well. But what we did today, and shout out to Gary Neville who pointed it out, was see Jorginho talking to everyone, moving people around, constantly trying to control. He's only been at the club 4 months, but he understands he's a leader. He's a leader in that group, and he's got the experience to try and guide much younger players through. And I've never played football anywhere near this level, but there is something to be said for playing with players, even at Sunday League or whatever, that you trust, that make you feel comfortable, and they say, I've got control of the situation. And it wasn't just through talking and shouting and pointing. He was in the fires. He was body in the line, covering at right back when he had to, pressing high up the pitch. He wasn't going, oh, I don't fancy the press because I'm not as quick. He was going, no, but I read the game better than you, and I'll get there. And everything Jorginho did in that sense was absolutely immaculate. I can't think of a single thing he did wrong all game.
Yeah, and I'll allude to something that we'll come on to the subs. Well, we'll transition to talking about the subs now, but We spoke about Nketiah versus Jesus, and we said what Nketiah does and where we give him credit is he knows that he's limited as a player, but he's willing to put 10 out of 10 effort in, not in the areas that are his strengths, but actually in the areas that are his weaknesses. And that's what Jorginho did really well today. He knows he's not going to win challenges in the air, shoulder-to-shoulder barges against the likes of Joe Linton or probably even Willock or Bruno Guimaraes, but he's going to put himself about, and that's what he continued to do today every single time. He didn't bottle a challenge. No. There's times when he uses his brain, lets them bring the ball down, tries to win the second ball, but if it is a situation, he looks behind him and sees we're a little bit short, I need to throw my body in. He knows he's going to lose it, but it doesn't matter. He throws his body in anyway, as did Ødegaard today, and that really is the mark of leadership, not just playing to their strengths, but putting all in even when it's their weaknesses. I completely and utterly agree. He won 7 duels. He was involved in 12 in total. Now, I think if anything tells you about Arsenal's intent and intensity and desire to win this game, the most duels contested from any Arsenal player were Jesus, Martinelli and Saka, the front three. Yep. They also won, all three of them, 9 duels each. That tells you how much we led from the front and the desire from that front three to just set the tone for Arsenal. Yeah, for sure. And this is why it's so important that we use our bench, because they're doing a lot of stuff that isn't. When we come into the final kind of stretch of the game, the last 15 minutes, we're playing the balls through. All 3 came off, you're right. That is so important that we rotate them, because they're not just doing running in behind and scoring like a lot of wingers might have the luxury to do. They're doing a hell of a lot of other stuff. So if you do see Saka looking leggy at 70, 80 minutes and Martinelli the same, and you think, well, Mahrez doesn't look like that, or other players at other teams don't look like that, they have a very different system. And what these guys have to do is all of the footwork and beating a man one-on-one and trying to get goals, as well as the physical, dropping back and getting into scraps. So it's a massively tough job, and that's why rotating the squad is so crucial. What have we got here? Jorginho won back possession 9 times more than any other Arsenal player. But I just want to have a look at distribution. And again, we mentioned it at half-time. Gabriel and Kivior. Gabriel with a 96% pass accuracy. Kivior 95.7, so basically 96. But they, a Newcastle team that wanted to press. We talk about, it's so funny, right? Because we're talking about on the ball and we're talking about defenders, and off the ball we're talking about forwards. Yeah. But that's how much football's changed. With Kivior and Gabriel, they set the tone in terms of going, yeah, we're happy to have the ball. Yeah, they're going to press us, but we're happy to have the ball. And that was massive as well, because they were on the front foot. They were proactive. They said, we're not going to, throw away our game plan just for Newcastle. And in the heart of all that, the pressing from the front, the composure from the back, Xhaka and Jorginho were able to do their thing. Yeah, you make a really good point about that, about the pressing and the duels from attacking players and holding the ball. We saw in the Chelsea game, even when Gabriel was injured, you can read who is trusted in a team by when your players get the ball, who do they look for first? And Gabriel was one of the players, when playing it out from the back, or even when kind of regaining composure, they always go to Gabriel. Even when he was limping and he was injured and he looked like he wanted to come off, they still kept giving him the ball, because they trust him that much that even an injured Gabriel is competent enough to play out through a press and create something. So he's such a gem of a centre-back. Zinchenko actually still ended the game with the most touches on the pitch, jointly with Jorginho, and he came off for the last half hour. So a couple more things I want to talk about. We're going to give some praise to Mikel Arteta. How about this? Gunner Blogs tweeted that Aaron Ramsdale tells Sky Sports that in the team meeting on the morning of the game, Mikel Arteta showed the Arsenal players and staff the section of all or nothing, covering last season's defeat at Newcastle. Yeah, I mean, look, one of the things I like about him, for me, when I was playing, he was definitely the kind of manager that I would have wanted to play for. He's, can tap into your emotions. He's a very, very intense person. And we know that this is the kind of stuff that he's going to do. He's going to keep going back to those documentaries. He's going to keep putting up social media quotes. He's going to really try and tap into the mentality and the emotion of these players to drive them. We are a very emotional team, but that isn't a problem when it's guided in the right direction. And today, you saw it perfectly when Newcastle were fouling or trying to get into scraps, and we were rattling them, and we just kept it football, drive that emotion into football, and we came off 2-0 clean sheet.
Yep. Ian Wright's just posted a clip of him celebrating a goal alongside Alan Shearer Gunning. Right, we're going to take some calls. Just before we do, as we're getting ready, I do want to just ask you about the subs as well. Arteta on the 60th minute brought on Kieran Tierney very early to make that change. We recognise Zinchenko was struggling and did for most of the game, to be honest. He then brings on, he rotates the whole front three, recognising the battle they've been in. And who was that? Partey came on.
Partey, yeah. Yeah, I think the subs are really, really good. I think, it's something that I've criticised Arteta for in the past of not being proactive enough. He was very, very proactive today. And I think, we're coming towards the end of the season. We're going to see a transfer window, and it's going to be really interesting to see, do we go for more of what we already have? Or do we go for slight differences like a Tierney versus Zinchenko or a Jorginho versus Partey? What kind of striker do we look for? Because I think Tierney would get a lot more minutes if we had a traditional number 9 like an Ivan Toney, because he can get down the wing and put crosses in. So the transfer window that we have and the players that go in and out is going to tell us a lot about the kind of football we want to play next season. Alan
Shearer tweets, well done Arsenal, best team won on the day. Newcastle didn't take their chances when they had them. Arsenal did. Solid away performance from them. So gracious in defeat, a Newcastle legend. Alan Shearer. I will say though, I also thought when you actually look across the 90 minutes, we had the significantly better chances and more of them. They hit the post a couple times, sure, but if we take our chances, good chances, we're 3-4 up at half time.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, let's take your calls. Wilson is joining us. Wilson,
hi guys. I'm good, guys. I'm good. Before I talk about the game, there's three people I need to call out. Remember on the AFTV video, remember Cecil? He predicted that Newcastle were going to beat us. What on earth is he smoking over there? Seriously, it's mad. And he's got it wrong. He should hang his head in shame. Seriously. Like, I don't know what coffee he's on. I really don't know. Well, but in terms of the...
sorry to cut you there. I will make sure. I'll pass this on to Cecil. Don't worry. But what I was going to ask, I predicted a draw. Are you angry at me as well?
Probably not, because Newcastle. Probably not, if I'm honest, because obviously Newcastle are a very good side, and it's a very hostile and a very tough place to go. In terms of the other two people, remember Yardman and there's Jordan on Jordan on Forever Arsenal video. Yeah. They slaughtered Gabriel. For what? Gabriel has been immense for the majority of this season. And he's not getting the respect that he deserves. What on earth is Jordan smoking over there? You know what I mean? It's madness. Put some respect on his name.
I'll pass on the feedback. I think in fairness, he was saying that he's very good, but that I think he's just saying that when we get into the Champions League, playing against the very best, he wonders if Gabriel is fully at that level. But I mean, I thought that was a bit harsh. But look, give us your thoughts on the game,
right?
And how important this is. I really want to know whether this has reignited a hope in you for the title race.
As far as I'm concerned, remember last season, we lost to Newcastle, and I felt the motivation was there, the desire was there, and we're learning from our mistakes. Kivior and Gabriel in particular were absolutely immense. They controlled absolutely everything. If Holding was in the Arsenal defence, I would have been worried, because we all know how physical and good Newcastle are. So Arteta has learned from his mistakes from that extent. And also our midfield, surprisingly, I didn't expect Jorginho to start. I thought for a game like this that Partey was meant to start, but I should not be complaining because our midfield controlled the game. The defence knew what they were doing. Ramsdale was back to his old self, because in recent games he's not been his old self. I have to say we knew what we were doing. We controlled the game. We did not make any mistakes at all. And we've won the game. And I believe in terms of a title race, it's still alive. It's not over. It's not over until it's over. It's not over. And the pressure's back on Manchester City right now. It really is.
I agree. Facts. It's not over till it's over. Let's see if Arsenal can... let's just see if we can keep it up and...
come on, Arsenal! Come on! Come on!
Thanks for your call. Appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
Just before we go to the next call, get this. Eddie Howe says, it was frustrating because we wanted the ball in play. It was very stop-start, which suits the away team.
I love that. I'm so happy about that. That's like honestly, yeah, there's nothing better than that. That just feels like justice. We have been the team that want the ball in play. That not even just since Arteta's joined. We've been the team that want to play football for well over a decade. And people have always tried to slow the game down. They've always tried to make the pitch really small. Whatever it is that they can do, and it's not just a question of us making excuses. When we played in the reverse fixture, statistically, the ball was in play for the shortest period of any game in Europe. It was in play for 48 minutes. And so the irony that they can't get themselves a goal, with all the advantages of being at home and the crowd and all the rest of it, I have no empathy for him at all. And I find that quite preposterous that he's even said that, to be honest with you. Lack of self-awareness. And I like Eddie Howe. I'm just venting.
No, I'm with you. I think it's absolutely hilarious. I was seeing or hearing actually Newcastle fans sort of complaining you could hear them in the crowd complaining, because Ramsdale's taking his time, and I thought, welcome to our world.
100%.
Because a lot of teams, and I really like Newcastle. I've got nothing but respect for what they've done this year. I really like Eddie Howe. I think that was a real great throwback game. I think a lot of people aren't happy with some of the challenges Newcastle left on us, and look, that's on the ref for me to punish them. But I thought it was a really hotly contested contest, and that's great. But I do think it was great to see, a lot of people have, not just Arsenal, clubs have complained about Newcastle's time wasting this year. I think it's great that we beat them at their own game a little bit.
100%. It's the versatility of the tactics. This is why, some people talk about bottling. There are places that this team has to improve, and there are things that Arteta has to improve on 100% before we can be winning. Well, we may still win the league, but to be winning leagues and Champions Leagues and these types of top prizes. But I want to stick with it because we're going in the right direction. Like I say, this is not a win that you would have associated with Arsenal getting into a physical battle, going long, time wasting, because we definitely were time wasting and killing the clock down a little bit and stuff like that. That's not traditionally what you would associate with Arsenal. But the fact that we can go and get wins playing different types of football, different styles of football, that's really, really encouraging for me.
Completely agree. They dug in really, really impressive. I'm going to take my glasses off, and then I'm going to invite the next caller who wants to join us. Aston is in the building. How you doing, Aston?
Hey, how's everyone doing? Better after that win. I'll tell you that much.
Aren't we all? It's been a while since we've spoken. We haven't actually caught up as what felt like the derailing of the title race happened. But at the very least, Arsenal are asking Man City to earn it now.
Yeah, I think we were always going to ask them to earn it. I think that there's a little bit of gloom and doom around the club because of, obviously, it feels like we bottled it, even though I think that if you look at our metrics, we've had an incredibly linear trajectory upwards since Arteta joined. And I think that if you put these losses, they aren't even losses, they're draws, by the way. We don't really lose games. But if you put them at the beginning of the season, nobody calls this like a bottle job. Nobody loses hope. I think that despair was a little bit. I'm hearing production over the mic.
Okay. Production. I don't know if you're getting that. But yeah, I'm sure they'll sort that out quite quickly. Can you still hear them now?
Yeah, I think they just stopped. But anyways, I just think that if you put the draws at the beginning of the game, nobody calls this a bottle job. And I think we really needed that today. One of the names that isn't getting enough said about him, you just mentioned him in the interview, is Aaron Ramsdale, or should I call him Dr. Ramsdale, because he's out here saving lives. I mean, wrap his hands up in cotton, wool, whatever you got to do to make sure that those hands stay protected, because people's lives depend on them, okay? I think I saw him save a baby the other day.
He was absolutely immense, and he pulled out some big saves at moments, because as good as Arsenal were and deserving of the win, there are a few chances. They hit the post, the save from Ramsdale. It could have been a different game, but what I really like, I'll never be mad at Arsenal for conceding chances, especially against a team that have been as good as Newcastle this year. I'll get mad when bad moments rattle the team. Like at West Ham,
right.
They give away a penalty, it rattled the team. Ramsdale gives the ball away in the first few seconds against Southampton, it kind of rattled the team. Like that, those are the moments that annoy me. But Arsenal came through those.
Yeah, and the biggest thing here too is Ramsdale never losing his head. I think we've called him hot-headed for a little while now, and he definitely kept his cool. Also, I think Ramsdale is one of the most disrespected players on our team, up there with Ben White. People questioning why he's even in the conversation for team of the season. And I think he showed today, not just him, by the way, hats off to Nick Pope. What a fantastic job he did today as well. But I think that was a on show for us, two elite keepers, two world-class keepers, two possibly of the best keepers in the world, showing us what they've got today. And I think that we all enjoyed the game that resulted from it. I do think that we put a little bit of our Arsenal glasses on for that game. I think we controlled that game a little better than we did. I actually think that the midfield wasn't as great as we wanted out to be. We were a little lightweight. We were losing possession. They kind of bullied us a little bit. And if you noticed, it was a lot of our pressing from the front and winning the ball back from the front that actually created chances. But that being said, for a guy the size of that he is, Jorginho really puts his body about. He really puts his body up the line.
Do you think, when you say maybe the midfield wasn't quite, or we didn't quite control the game as much as you, or some are saying, I actually get what you're saying, but for me, maybe I agree in terms of as a collective. I actually thought as individuals, Xhaka was unbelievable, Jorginho was unbelievable, and it was quite a messy game at times, especially that first hour. I think we had to just come through off sheer grit and just wanting it.
Well, and this is where you're right? Because it's not that we didn't win the midfield battle, it's that we didn't dominate the midfield because they have an incredibly good midfield. Like, you can't just sit here and say that we walked the midfield that game when that's just not true. Joe Linton had an incredible game today. He just threw our players off the ball over and over and over again, but we did win. And I didn't think we could win with somebody like Jorginho in the midfield. So hats off to him. What an incredible job. Captain Fantastic, once again, showing you why he's the best midfielder in the Premier League. I don't care. Kevin who? Kevin what? Yeah, that's right. It's Odegaard.
I'm not getting involved. City fans will be in the chat.
So that's all that there is really to the game. I'm really excited that we won this game because we really needed to kind of show them we are the only team to beat Newcastle at home with 11 men, by the way. So put that in your hat and, keep it going forward. Hopefully we take this into the summer, we get some signings and we go again.
Yeah,
100%.
We've got an eye on the West Ham Man United game as well. Not that it really impacts Arsenal, but always good to have a little look at how United are doing. Aston,
that reminds me. By the way, James, happy Neville Fool's Day, the day that we mathematically finish above Manchester United. Remember it every.
That is absolutely true, and that secured second place for us as well. That win.
Yeah, I mean,
a draw would have, but a win does, yeah.
And wasn't it hilarious watching other rival fans sitting here talking about how we're going to come in third and fourth because we weren't looking as good, as if they had any chance of sniffing ahead of us with our huge, by the way, it's like, 16-point gap between us and third right now, or 15 or something like that. Like, I love that their bitterness causes them to make such incredibly delusional statements, and long may we continue to rattle them.
I hope you're right. Aston, let me quickly ask you while I got you. Will you be there on tour? We know that Arsenal have confirmed a few dates.
Right. So we already have big plans happening in DC. The one that was kind of a little bit of a curveball, we knew just a little bit ahead of time, was the one in Jersey. Obviously, have we announced the game against Barcelona yet?
I don't know.
I didn't say anything. There's a game in LA that may or may not be happening. But the point is yes, we will be there. I think I'll be in DC and in New York. I may not be in LA.
Okay. Well, look, if we're out there, we hope to see you. AFTV will be out there. If I'm out there, I hope to see you. And no doubt that the Arsenal fans will be there in their numbers as always. Aston, absolute pleasure to chat.
Cheers.
In a bit, man. So much to unpack still. We'll get another call on in a sec. I really like that Arsenal today. Let me put it this way. After what happened against City, they could have fallen off. And that would have been acceptable, but it's kind of more understandable. Like, the title feels like it's gone now, and you're kind of just going to sleepwalk over the line. Fair play, you've come a long way this season, top 4 secured. But actually, I thought they were brilliant against Chelsea. That first off, I don't think that performance got enough credit, probably because Chelsea are crap. And then today against Newcastle, we showed everyone, no, actually, we have just stepped up a bit.
I think where we stepped up, and I agree with what Aston said about not necessarily dominating the midfield, but doing a very good job for the personnel that we put out, I think is more accurate. But I think where we stepped up this performance versus Chelsea is that all 3 of our goals in the Chelsea game came in a 16-minute period. And all season, there's been issues with us dominating and playing the best football the world's ever seen for 25 minutes and then being quite flat. This was a much more concise, this is more of a marathon performance. Do you know what I mean? It was solid 7s and 8s across the entire game rather than 9s and 10s for a 20-minute period and then 3s and 4s elsewhere.
I agree. We've got a super chat here. Let's just give it a read. Giuseppe says, proud with a big love heart. Says, Jorginho commands, Odegaard goal, Ramsdale saved us, Tierney masterclass, Kivior and Gabby duo, Jesus hold up play, such a WWE match from Newcastle, puts a thumbs down. He says, and believe. What did you make? Did you feel Newcastle crossed the line at times today?
I mean, I've been an Arsenal fan for 25 years. So, you know, it's nothing. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but it's nothing that I'm not used to seeing. I've been seeing this for 2 decades at this club, all through the Wenger era. And, you know, once you've seen that, you just can't really expect to see anything else, really. And it's a sign, it's a token of respect that we're back to being competitive and back to being one of the top teams in the league, because that, you know, when they start kicking you, it means they know they can't beat you with pure football. Right.
And actually, do I think Newcastle crossed the line? I think they were leaving some on us. You know, am I going to sit here and sort of bitch and moan about Newcastle? Probably not. I think the referee's got to put out the yellow card early. I think that's exactly what the yellow card exists for. It's to control the aggression in games. So I think I do think he got that wrong, the ref. I think he had a bit of a shocker, if I'm honest, in terms of what he was allowing and what he wasn't. I thought he was incredibly inconsistent. But I also liked the fire, and maybe I could say this now that we came out with a win. I think if we lose this game 1 or 2-0, I'm going, you know, they were playing dirty, they were doing this and the other. But actually, what's great is that Arsenal are going to face more of that, which is why I love that we're linked with players like Rice and Caicedo who can hold their own in midfield when that sort of thing happens. What I really enjoy is that if you are, as you said, if you're resorting to that, that tells me that you're not happy with the way the game's going. And the focus changes. It's less no focus, take a few touches, you know, keep possession for 5 minutes and grow into it. It's keep throwing yourself around, keep getting into them. And that is a game that really suits Arsenal, if I'm honest.
Correct. I mean, we saw Man City go to that same ground and draw 3-3, and we saw none of the overspill or frustration that we saw against us today, because, you know, they were in the football game. And today, although it was only 2-0, one was no goal, they created a few chances, but they weren't in the game like they were in the game against other big teams that they've played. Remember, they've beaten everybody else there of the sort of big 6, and I think only Man City have got a draw. They really don't.
Liverpool won, but they had 10 men, yeah.
There you go. So, you know, so these are the situations that we find ourselves in. So we can take huge pride from this game.
I completely agree. Real Madrid Arsenal says maybe Kivior, instead of Holding, will still be at least 5 points ahead of City. Liverpool, West Ham and Southampton would not have happened. I think it's easy. I think it's far too easy to say that. I do think Rob Holding and the way he plays has been an issue for Arsenal. I do think you've seen what Kivior brings. You know, so I do agree with that. I just don't think... we were 2-0 up at Liverpool. We were 2-0 up at West Ham. We scored 3 goals against Southampton. Like, Rob Holding is an issue, but there were other bigger issues that took part in those games.
Yeah, I know we want to get some callers in. So the last thing I'll say on the Rob Holding situation is that for me, I can apologise to Kivior, because after seeing Kivior come in and do a couple of cameo performances, I didn't want to see him in. A lot of us did not. At the time, we can do revisionist history, but at the time, we didn't want to see this guy start because he looked shaky. He's really turned it around, with fair play to him. But at that, we're not going to revise history and say, actually, you know, we would have been terrified going into the City game with Kivior based on what we'd previously seen.
And it might, I mean, and maybe his inexperience might have cost him in different ways. But exactly. I do think profile-wise, he suits what Arteta's Arsenal do so well. We're going to take some more callers. Colby says, that's how I like my players, nasty and feisty. They absolutely rose to it. And DJ Brito says, we need to criticise Jordan and Yardman on Gabriel. Some opinions are nauseating. Each year players grow and improve. Gabriel has grown since he came in. Next year he will be immense in the Champions League. Look, I'm not going to comment on what Yardman said. I didn't see the fan cam. I did the podcast with Jordan. So just to address this one more time, because Wilson said it. Firstly, it's just an opinion. It's not that deep. People have different opinions, and that's fine. Some are very wrong. And I think with what Jordan was saying, I understood what he was basically saying is there is a certain caliber, like the very highest level. And I think Man City flexed their muscles and showed that. If you ask yourself really bluntly, how many world-class players do Arsenal have? I think you maybe get to one, but it's probably none. What do you think? How many genuinely world-class players do we have?
I'm answering this question in a sort of roundabout way, but the one thing that I would say is that how many times has Man City gone and bought world-class players? Often they buy players that are good, but sort of, looked at and well thought of, and then Pep builds them into world-class players by putting other world-class players around them. They don't actually necessarily go out there. There were question marks about whether Jack Grealish is world-class. He doesn't start for England. Saka does. There were question marks. Haaland we knew he was world-class. But some of these other guys, when they bought De Bruyne, we all seen, the news reacting to them buying De Bruyne and saying, 40 million for this player. Who is this guy? Bernardo Silva, the same. They've bought players that don't even start for their national teams, and then they've come in and become world-class players while they were there. Was Kyle Walker considered a world-class player when he was at Spurs? Probably not. So, there is a bit of context to this. We bought Gabriel for £27 million from Lille. He was already playing in the Champions League at that point. So he is a Champions League quality centre-back. I wouldn't worry about him specifically. But some other players like Ben White and those guys that don't have that experience, it's down to Arteta to get them there. We are not going to spend 70, 80 million pounds on players. Or go and get these nowadays a top Champions League player is going to be a lot more than that. We're going to have to go and get players like Rice or up and comers. That's the strategy, and try to build them into world class.
Who will still cost about 100 million as well.
Exactly.
But so I do know we have callers. So I'm going to just finish this point really quickly. What you just said about Man City they've bought very, very good players who might be world class. I don't think any of us have been that surprised about some of the players and how they've turned out. But I think the bigger thing, like you said, is. Yeah, was Jack Grealish world class when they signed him? Was Mahrez world class? I mean, maybe, but there's no doubt that they weren't being quite talked about as world class. And then Pep got hold of them and raised them just to that level. And now Ruben Diaz, De Bruyne, I mean, their team feels sprinkled with world class players.
The thing that people say to Martinelli and Saka about whether or not they're
and that can happen for Gabriel. Sorry,
the thing that people say about Saka and Martinelli is the reason they can't be considered world class. They're not playing in the Champions League. They're not playing. Maybe they will be, but we haven't seen them there yet, etc., etc. Even though Saka had a pretty good World Cup and all the rest of it, so we have to give these players time. Do you know what I mean? That's all it is. It's a question of time and putting other players around them. Do you know what I mean? Kevin De Bruyne is amazing, but he's always going to look amazing when he's sending balls into Haaland up top.
Yeah, he's amazing though.
He is amazing.
But yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Let's bring in, someone says Xhaka today was world class as Benjamin. Let's bring in some callers. Who have we got? Classic's here. Let's talk to Classic. How you doing, Classic?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
I tell you what, that Arsenal shirt is an absolute beauty, and it's been horrendously underused. I'm actually slightly mad at the club. I'll forgive them because they won today, but that is really annoying.
I'm actually kind of mad because I've been trying to buy the black one for about 3 months, and it's just out of stock.
I'm the same.
But it is what it is.
I've been trying to buy the black one for ages. They're not helping us out. Us with the pink kit, who decided to support the pink one. Anyway, what a win!
Yeah, excellent game. Going back to your point though, James, about was it too much? Were they leaving too much on us? I really actually believe the better part of that game, we were getting a lot of hits from behind, like petulant tackling going on. I was really upset with the referee, and I think that brings us back to that age-old question this season and for the last few seasons about the consistency in refereeing. I mean, that place was a cauldron, just like Liverpool. And I think like Liverpool, that game at Anfield, we saw a lot of that tackling, a lot of them, the defenders stepping up into our players in from behind and kind of like leaving a foot in and kind of just taking out a player and not enough being done about it. I will say, though, that I am all for the physicality in the Premier League. I mean, that's one of the things I think sets it apart from other leagues, but at some point I feel like the referees need to step in and kind of just set a standard and make sure that it's not being, that certain fouls are not being had, because I really feel like there was a lot of physicality. And I will also say that I'm super proud of what our team did today, because they really kind of stepped up and dealt with it in a lot of ways that they haven't in previous seasons.
Yeah. Very quickly, do you think the title race is back on? Have Arsenal made it interesting?
You asked me this last time, and I said yeah, and then we went through a spell of like 3 losses or 3 ties.
Don't answer then. Don't answer. I don't want to know.
I'm like
Just
all over the place right
Just
now.
Say it's over.
Mentally. Yeah.
Yes. Say it's over.
It's scary right now, so I'd rather not say.
I hear it. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, have you got a newborn?
Yeah, he's in the other room right now. He's taking a nap. He has his Arsenal kit on though. Don't worry.
Oh, bless him. I was going to ask how it's going. He's well.
Yeah, it's excellent. Thank you for asking.
Good.
I also want to say that I really loved seeing the work that we did defensively today. You know, and going back to what you guys were just talking about with Kivior, I think he was adding another element that Rob Holding can't on that defensive line, stepping into spaces a little bit more. Which he probably wouldn't have fared too well at Man City because of just the pressure. But today, I mean, you could see that he actually stepped up and he fits that mold that system that Arteta wants to employ a little bit better, I think, than Rob Holding. And as much as I love Rob Holding, I've heard you talk about it. You know, I also feel like he might not be part of the system that Arteta is trying to use. You know. Yeah.
What
do you guys think?
Or we adapt to him more.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to adapt to him more. Obviously, he's one of the last. He's one of the last Wenger signings in the squad, and you know, I have a lot of respect for Rob Holding. He gives everything when he's on the pitch. It's just a question of not technically being at the level. You know, he's not a Champions League centre back. He doesn't really cover himself in glory against top 6 clubs, and you know, top 6 Premier League clubs. And I don't know if we can win Premier League titles if we're relying on someone like him. We need everybody to, you know, someone like Thomas Partey can be world class on his day. He's been in big Champions League clashes, and even someone like him, I think there's an opportunity to maybe upgrade on just in terms of reliability. So if I'm going to hold Partey to those standards, I have to hold Rob Holding to the same standards. Otherwise, it's not fair. So I think it's unfortunate. He's been a great servant to the club. I have nothing against him personally, but you know, can we go and play Real Madrid's and Barcelona's next season and Bayern Munich's with the likes of, you know, if we get into late stages of Champions Leagues, everybody's like a Man City, you know.
Very true.
And I've been an Arteta fan ever since he came in, actually. And I really think that he's brought a complete change in just the mentality, which I completely appreciate because, like you're saying, you know, I think that everyone is competing for a place on the field. Even Tierney, like I wish we could use him more in maybe a different system against different teams. But then you can see that he's even trying to fit to the system that Arteta is using, where he's slotting into that midfield and trying to play out through that position. Yeah,
that's it. Pleasure chatting to you, mate. We're gonna get some other callers in, but it's really great to hear from you. And send our love to your newborn, man, and congrats again.
Will do. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. All right.
And you, man. Who's the next caller? Who've we got? Let's bring in Masood. Masood, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, James?
Yeah, good. I'm happy. You happy?
Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I would say this is one of the, I think, best away performance for this season. We play very smart actually, and I think hello.
Yeah, we can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, but is it too little, too late? But I'm happy overall the progress we made, the decision. I think Arteta, I want to mention one thing about Arteta. I think he's growing as well with the team. He's learning, especially today, substitution was spot on. He didn't wait too long to take off Zinchenko. I think that was a smart move. I think a couple of games like within that bad period we had, like he could have done a little bit better, but anyway, I think he's learning. He's learning fast.
Yeah, so, I thought, actually, I want to bring Nick on this because you had very much, you know, highlighted Arteta's growth and how evident it's been in this game in particular.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of the things that I've criticised him about before, same as what you said, Masood, is the lack of rotation, and he's very, you know, waits the last minute and reactive instead of proactive. And today, you know, when we saw Zinchenko was not doing, it's okay if Zinchenko struggles at the things that he's bad at, but today he was actually struggling at the things that are meant to be his strength. He's meant to be good at stepping into midfield and passing.
Agreed.
And as soon as he saw he wasn't at it today, made that change straight away and, you know, really shored up the defense.
I think the same goes with Saka. I think maybe he could have a little bit rotated more on Saka. Like for a young man carrying the team, he started every game season, like, you know. So anyway, next season we need a proper proper 3-4 quality pair, I think, and we are in good place.
Yep, I think you're right. If we just get those 3 real top signings in, it could really take us into another direction. Pleasure to chat to you. Sorry that it's so quick. We've got plenty of callers that we want to give their thoughts as well. But thank you so much.
we finish the season with high.
I really hope you're right. Thank you, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next to join us? We have Harvey. Harvey, what are the arms crossed for? Surely you're happy, or is it too little, too late?
No, I am. No. This time I'm actually really proud of the boys, man. Yeah. I'm really proud. Very physical game. They rose to it, and I'm actually I've been happy for the first time in a couple of weeks. So I'm good.
Is this too far? This is like one of the proudest I've felt after a win this season. And it's not because of what it does for the season. I think Tottenham away was up there. That really put us 8 points clear, and I felt we dealt with the pressure, the away day, the derby, all that really well. But this one, I saw Arsenal being asked so many different questions. They struggled the first 5-10 minutes. They were being extremely kind of physical as well. I think there was so much that Arsenal had to rise to that was away from what they're naturally comfortable with. The atmosphere as well, dealing with what happened last season, and De Gea's just let one in. That is appalling. But yeah, Arsenal rose to it.
Yeah, man, 100%. And it's the kind of fight and that you want to see from the lads, and you saw both a mixture of not only playing our football but also being able to actually indulge in the emotions of the game while still staying locked in. It seems like they were actually enjoying and they were up for the battle. And I think that's the measure of, you having some men on that pitch who are willing to actually, put their bodies and life on the line to actually be able to get the 3 points. And we saw that. And perhaps when we've seen them sort of take their foot off the gas in the last couple of games, it's good to see that they still have it, especially against a team like Newcastle.
Yeah. Harvey, I will come back to the football. Have you seen this De Gea error? Have you got the game on?
I haven't, but he is the most overrated goalkeeper I've ever seen in my life. This guy cannot play with his feet at all. He's terrible.
It's a howler.
It's an absolute howler.
Yeah,
do you rate De Gea?
I can't say I don't rate him, but yeah, he's definitely on the slide. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of Peter Cech when he signed for Arsenal. If that makes sense. I mean, like the quality was there. He's able to on his day, but a lot of mistakes in him. He's clearly on the slide.
I think De Gea, if you go back 5-6 years ago, I was calling him the best goalkeeper in the world. Even in the Neuer debate, I just thought his reflexes were unbelievable. But as the game's evolved and goalkeepers are being asked to do more, he falls so short of the requirement for that. But now, even though he can pull off some worldly saves, there's like 5 errors a season from him, minimum. I mean, I'd be annoyed if Ramsey had 2 errors, let alone 5, 6 or whatever. But listen, I don't know, maybe I'm counting them wrong. Back to the game, sorry. So, we rose to it. They were brilliant. Jorginho, man, let's talk about him.
I mean, mate, my thoughts on Partey. I think he's incredibly overrated on our fan base. And Jorginho, I think, the reality is, when Jorginho has started for us, has Partey been...
Oh, we lost Harvey. Are you kidding? Oh, I really want to hear more of his thoughts. Production, let me know if he's back. Let me know if he's back. We think it's an internet thing. We'll bring... Oh, he's back. He's back. We think he's back.
Not sure what happened.
Okay, now we're having internet problems. In the meantime, Man United are 1-0 down to West Ham. Listen, they need to win this. They really need to win this. Because even though I think they will get top 4, I think the advantage is big enough. You don't want to let Liverpool in with a sniff at it. Yeah, Harvey's back. Let's bring Harvey back in. Hey, Harvey, sorry about that. Oh.
Hey, not sure if it was from my end. But yeah.
Oh, okay. We think it's back. You know what? Give us your thoughts on Jorginho. Hopefully, it will hold out.
Yeah, I think Partey has been overrated for a long time. And I think that Jorginho playing, exemplified that we don't really tend to miss Partey when Jorginho plays. And it's because Jorginho, he has one quality that is, I think, really, really exceptional, and that's his composure on the ball and actually able to dictate play. While as Partey, he has good qualities, but he's not outstanding in any particular department. So when he's off of it, he's really off of it. While as Jorginho, he's so good at actually being able to dictate play, and his football IQ is so high that even if he's not really putting in the defensive work per se, he's so exceptional in that aspect of the game that he just brings a different element. He oozes that class. And that's why I've never really been that much of a fan from Partey. And if I'm honest, I think this is the kind of game that he would have disappeared from. He never really seems to rise to a physical challenge in these kind of, argy-bargy kind of games. So I think it was a perfect game from Jorginho, and what a performance from him.
Yeah, I do heavily rate Partey personally. Where do you stand with Partey?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. I think, I wanted to ask Harvey a question. I just wondered if, we were having a conversation before about Thomas Partey having great physical attributes, but that not being the natural side of his game. And do you think that actually, because he is big and strong, we're looking at him and going, you can do that job, when actually that's not really what he does?
Exactly. And it was actually last year at the beginning of the season against Liverpool when he was getting bullied that I like wrote him off. I was just like, you have both the talents and the physical attributes to be a world-class center defensive midfielder, and yet he always seems to be playing like with this level of shyness that never really seems to come through, and it's always angered me. While as someone like Xhaka, who perhaps doesn't have that much quality, you can tell he's just giving it his all. And I just think what upsets me so much about Partey is that there's a player there who has the opportunity to really make his stake in world football, and yet for whatever reason he never wants to grasp it, and he gets bullied very easily. He always reminds me of like a dog with a tail between its legs whenever it's a big game, or it's like, I have a tight hamstring, I can't play today, and if I do, I'm gonna get bullied.
Yeah.
So I want to see him get moved on and bring something better.
Scathing. But look, I think a lot of people are feeling that frustration towards Partey's recent performances, and Jorginho stepped up and been absolutely fantastic. Harvey, I dare ask, is there a glimmer of hope? Are you looking at those Man City away games and thinking, maybe?
James, I know I'm going to give you an answer that's made just for you. That's how much I love you. I know you're a big Marvel fan. So right now I'm like Hawkeye and Endgame when he's like, don't do that. Don't give me hope. You know what I mean?
Yes. I love it. And we know how that ended. Come on. It's back on, people.
1 in 14 million.
That is so spot on. That is absolutely so spot on. I think that is a little bit how I feel. I'm looking at Arsenal won today, and there's a little part of that just went, oh no, don't. I'm back in. I'm back in. Especially because I don't think City have actually looked their scintillating best recently. But then I think they are probably just managing the occasion. So I'm sure if they need to turn it on, they will. But let's hope they don't. Harvey, always a pleasure to chat. And maybe we'll see you in the spaces this week as well.
Yeah, man. You do yours like Tuesdays, like super early, right?
So Tuesdays, 11 a.m. UK time, and Thursdays...
6 a.m. my time.
Oh. You don't want to wake up?
Yeah, I'll be up. I'll be up for it, man. I'll be up for it.
Oh, legend. Good man. And then, of course, the Thursday ones as well at 8 p.m. UK time. So all of you as well, join us here on FanZone. But, of course, if you can't, there's so many other ways to chat to us. One of those is Twitter Spaces as well. Harv, always a pleasure, man. See you soon.
Likewise, man. Enjoy the F1 later. Take care.
I will. Well, I'll try to. It'd be help if Leclerc stopped crashing. Do you like F1?
I'm into it a bit. I watch the highlights, but I'm not like a big F1 fan.
Fair enough.
I can't speak intelligently about it.
Oh, well, neither can I.
There you go.
I just tried to. Thanks, Harv. Appreciate it.
Take care, bud.
Who's next to join us? Kanane is joining us. Let's get Kanane on.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, yeah, very good. How are you?
I'm good. Very proud of the boys today. Very, very physical Newcastle side. They're so dirty. I never realized how dirty they are. The amount of fouls and shoving, especially their right back Trippier. Oh my days, they were so dirty. Like you can see why they're third place.
But don't you think for everything that annoys you about that, and it does me, it made me angered. I mean, you were next to me the whole game. I was sitting so saying things that I was getting pissed off basically. And but don't you think coming through it though, it feels so satisfying, tells us so much about the team?
Yes, of course. It's just I was going to ask you guys this question, like, what do you think the result would have been if we actually ended up getting the points from Southampton and West Ham? Because that's what bothers me. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say it's a little too late. I'm really proud of them. They pushed through against a very physical Newcastle side. It's just like, what if it's because the pressure kind of eased down a bit? Like, City's top now. Like, what if we went into this game as the top, top of the league? Do you think we would have still came across with a win? Because me, personally, I think we could have possibly drew this game if we didn't have, if we did have the pressure. Sorry.
I'll let you take that, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Jorginho today over Thomas Partey. That's one of the main talking points in the starting 11. And one thing that Jorginho has over Thomas Partey is Premier League experience. So, Premier League winner, Champions League winner, he has that experience. And I don't think it's any surprise that when he comes in, we're able to control the game. But we've spoken already about how he might not have the technical ability that depth Thomas Partey has, but he does have that experience. And so it's so difficult to say. I don't like looking back, but looking at what happened today, you feel like maybe if the squad was managed a little bit differently, maybe if certain substitutions were managed a bit differently, we could have come through those points. But I do also agree with you that, when the pressure's come off, this is a young team, and without the pressure, they're able to go and perform much better. And it's going to be really interesting.
Was this a pressureless game? Listen, I know we went top of the league.
Just the individual game, not the overall season, not the seasonal context, but just for the overall game. For this, playing at Newcastle was such a difficult place to go when they fly in, and very difficult to get wins there. I think there was a degree of pressure on Arsenal. There's nothing like being the league leader. There's nothing like going to the Etihad and what feels like a Premier League final. But I do think there's something in, actually, we still need this to look respectable at the end of the season. Yes.
We still want to get to 90 points or near it. We still want to be right up there with City because we deserve to be. And if you fall away, I think that can really knock fans going into it. Listen, people might hate me for saying this, but let me land. I'd rather lose a title race almost in the 5-6 games before and then end strong than we lost it because of the last 2 games, and it's kind of heartbreaking.
I agree with you for a couple of reasons. One of them is momentum, but one of them is also the transfer window.
I think momentum's the big one I'm thinking of. Like, either way we lose it, I'd rather, listen, you don't want that either way. I hope people understand what I'm saying. Well, what do you think of that? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I see what you mean. It's just, for me, what I'm thinking of, it's just, I'm trying not to be negative here, right? They are a young team and everything, but it's like, you're going to the 3rd place team, Newcastle, away, and you're coming off with a 2-0 victory, but you're struggling with Southampton. It's like, it's very, very, you're struggling with Southampton at home. So it's very, like, I see what you mean, like, what would you rather? But, like, it's just one of those where it's like, now, like, it's like, you guys are able to perform. You guys are able to go against a team like this and win away from home. But you were struggling against, West Ham and Southampton. And the thing is, I realized even previous years, we have this tendency. The last, it's like 6-7 games, we start losing and drawing to these bottom mid-table teams for no reason. You would catch us losing at home. You know what I'm saying? So
I do. What I would say is that, this sounds so silly because we did bottle a lot of the league, or bottle, whatever people want to use. We did lose points we shouldn't have, and we lost points from winning positions. But City are the only team that have beaten us in something like 12, 13 games or something. They're the only 2 teams to have beaten us, I believe, this calendar year, along with Everton. Okay, so City and Everton, the only 2 teams to beat us this calendar year. So Arsenal aren't going around sort of losing games because they've been rubbish. They just drew games they really should have won.
But the nature of some of those draws make it even worse. You can look at the Man City game and say, you guys have played off the park, you weren't that good, they beat you 4-1. Fine. Versus when it is a 2-2 and it is so close, we've given everything and we just scrape through it. Sometimes it's even worse to go, actually, you've given your best performance and you let the 2-0 lead slip, versus you just weren't that good on the day. Maybe it's better to actually lose a point and say you just weren't good on that day and move on.
I think the reason, we do have to move on to another call, but the reason I bring this all up, and I mention it this way, is I think Arsenal, it might be pressure to a degree, but I think Arsenal, I don't know, just things went wrong in those games that are maybe just not pressure related as well, in some ways. But I don't. So they turned up today and they played well. But I think also Jorginho's experience, Kivior's pace. Yeah. I think all of that adds as much.
No, I'm really proud of them. I'm super proud of them the whole season. It's just, I really wanted this league. It's just sad the way we threw it away and like how good we are. You saw today how good of a team we are. It's just looking back at those games. I'm trying not to dwell on it. It's just like we really deserved it. We really deserved the season.
If City throw it away and say they draw and lose one of their remaining games and we win the league by some miracle, okay? City will look back at Everton at home. They drew 1-1 when they had all the chances. Brentford at home, they lost 2-1. So they will also look back on games that feel like really stupid to drop points. They lost away at Tottenham. Everyone was winning at Tottenham at that stage of the season. So I get what you're saying. I wouldn't dwell on it too much, but I do hear what you're saying. I think a few people are probably feeling the same. But look, pleasure to chat to you, and we'll hope to chat soon as well here on AFTV FanZone.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, man. Aaron says massive props to Arteta. Given that all his signings have been under 50 million, he's built 50 million. He's built a fantastic squad. I can only imagine if he gets marquee signs. This is what it is. He wants to add world-class quality now. All right, we are not the end of the show. We're approaching the end, so we're going to have to be, unfortunately, a bit quicker on some of these final calls, but definitely want to get as many as possible and get your thoughts. So we've got Elliot joining us. Elliot, what a win.
Gentlemen, how are you?
I love that you always call us gentlemen. Thank you. It's such a kind of relaxed, nice way to enter the conversation.
Yes, it is such a relaxed conversation, and I think it's too goddamn relaxed. We won goddamn in Newcastle, and nobody is giving a bloody two what's-its of how we did today. Everybody said, oh, that was so nice, that was so wonderful. No, we won a second Newcastle when everybody said, no, we weren't going to do anything. Wake the F up!
I agree. I agree. This 100%. We're obviously still recovering from poor performances. That's what it is. It hit us so hard that we're back-to-back wins, and we can't even celebrate it.
I will say that this...
Is this a funeral? Is this a funeral? I'm asking if this is a funeral. Because that's how we are addressing this. I don't get it, guys. Nobody expected us to do anything at St. James Park today. Let's take that in.
You predicted a 2-1.
The rest of the league thought it was over today. It was over today. And yet, we're still here. And yet, when I get on these calls, I hear, oh, well, we're just doing wonderful things. Hello, wake up! We're still in this. We're still in this tie.
It's back on, yeah?
Everybody, wake up!
I think the fans have.
I agree with him.
Yeah, I kind of get it as well. You should see me behind the scenes. Like, we were going mad, to be fair.
But I totally agree. I was saying straight after the game, even before the game, I was saying, it's not over till it's over. We give Man City, we gave them too much credit and respect on the day that we played them, and we're still giving them too much credit and respect now. They're just another football team. We've seen them lose games. We've seen them draw games, especially games that they shouldn't lose and draw. Anything can happen. I'm not saying I would bet money on it, but we have to just keep supporting. These last few games, this is what the Premier League's about.
That's exactly what the Premier League's about. Yeah. But let me get on to another subject here. Now that everybody's up on 10, because we should be up on 10, because we've actually beat a team that nobody thought we would beat today.
I agree.
Newcastle were giving it today. They were absolutely dirty, deadly. They wanted us out of there. They were throwing elbows. They were slashing at Saka's heels. They were kicking and clutching and clawing and doing all what's this to get us off our game. And yet we persevered above that. This was supposed to be our final hurrah, and yet still here. But let me get on to another subject here. And this is one thing that I want to talk about in terms of Jorginho. And I was wrong about him coming in. But the one thing that Jorginho has above all other players and most of the Premier League is his positioning when the ball is in the air. Do you ever see how Jorginho shapes himself when the ball's up in the air? That's why he wins most of his duels. He literally shapes himself so when the ball hits, it faces down in front of him and behind. And that's why he wins most of his duels. And he has the uncanny ability of corralling a ball, not panicking and waiting for, okay, guys, where do you want to go now? Would you like to go over there? I've got the ball here if you need it. But if you want to go over there and there, that's fine. That's totally fine. No, take your time. Take your time. I got it here. Don't worry. That's Jorginho's specialty. His positioning when the ball is in the clear is absolutely phenomenal. And that should not be taken into account. Now, second thing, Harvey came after Mr. Partey, and that's a no-no. That's a no-no from me. He may have had a couple of games, but let's just go back here and relive some of these highlights here. Tottenham home and away. Who was the man of the match, arguably?
Yeah, Partey. No, I rate Partey. Yeah. He's brilliant.
Yes. When we talk about, wait a second. I'm just reacting here. Liverpool at home. Who was the man of the match on that day, arguably?
Yeah, he was up
there. So was Partey. When we had Man City and the FA Cup, when we were going on a good run, who was the man who was taken off and yet our play subsided when he was taken off?
Thomas Partey.
It was Thomas Partey. So I don't want to hear, yeah, he's had a couple of bad games, but everybody does. But don't give me this nonsense that he has been to the detriment of this team, because he hasn't. He needs competition, but he hasn't.
Elliot, I'm with you. I think the answer lies in, if you get Thomas Partey and you have him in your squad through the season, you're going to get some world-class performances out of him. But the answer isn't to just depend on a Thomas Partey, because I don't believe you can depend on a Thomas Partey for the whole season. Yes. Either performances or injury-wise. But I think you can with another, like Jorginho did today, and like he's done since we signed him. Jorginho's come in, and now the threat of... Thomas Partey was in the 11 today, and I mentioned it, and I thought Arteta might have got that wrong. I think I would have had Partey in there personally. I got that wrong. But I wasn't stressed. I wasn't like, oh no, the game's done. And that, I think, is testament to how good Jorginho's been. And now, Jorginho probably keeps his place in that role unless he gets injured till the end of the season.
That's fine. That's totally fine. And I totally agree with that, to be fair. But to say that Thomas Partey is a detriment to the side is a bit of a misnomer, to be fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair.
Elliot, it's always an absolute pleasure chatting to you. I would love to chat to you more. We've got so many people we need to chat to as well. But we'll see you soon, yeah? You'll be back on FanZone?
Indeed, I'll be back on FanZone. And everybody, wake up! We just beat Newcastle. Wake up!
You tell him.
We just beat Newcastle. Wake up! We just beat Newcastle, guys.
I hear it.
Facts. Big
Thanks,
facts.
Elliot.
Love, brother.
You know what I'm going to say? I get it. I think his message, which he's delivered spectacularly, is, what are you all giving up for? Because the players didn't give up out there.
Yeah.
So what have we all given up for? I don't think we have given up. I think there's a line between giving up and realistically, we kind of know what's likely going to happen.
Yeah.
But I was telling myself, and I never said it on any show on AFTV or anything, but I was telling myself behind the scenes, if we go and win at Newcastle, I'm invested again. Even though I still deep down don't think we are going to win it, but I'm invested again. Like it has woken me up.
Do you know what it is? What would be really, really terrible? What would be the worst thing in the world? What would make us all hate football forever is if we went away, and like Elliot said, we went away and we dropped our heads and said, City beat us and they absolutely smashed us that day. Actually, we don't fancy it, let's just grind out. Maybe we win some games, maybe we draw some games, whatever, who cares? And then Man City drop points. And they drop 4 or 5 points. And we say, you know what? We should have been there if we kept it. So we just want to leave it all out there. We've got other people to bring in, but we want to leave everything out there. The team and the fans, leave it all out there.
Yep. Gabriel Martinelli tweeted 21 minutes ago, keep believing, Gooners, with a picture of him cupping his ears.
If he tells me to believe, I'll believe.
Fans, I absolutely hear it. Let's bring Dean in. How you doing? Dean, you've been a regular. You've been a regular on FanZone. Where does this rank satisfaction-wise with all the other wins this season?
Oh, it's very satisfactory. Like Tottenham was a good win. Man United at home was a good win. Bournemouth was a brilliant win, but I feel like that Man City game really slapped something out of us differently. It was a different type of beating, and everything was. It seemed like it's going to all capitulate, but beating Chelsea was almost expected because of the form they're in. But this Newcastle team, the team that's definitely been on the rise, been playing amazing football. No one gave us a prayer. No one really gave us a prayer. It was almost like facing a Liverpool or Man City or Man United or when Tottenham, when they've been off form. No one gave us a prayer, but we went there. And you know what? In games gone past, in years gone past, we crumble. We crumble because they really gave it to us, and we had to stand up to it, and we had to fight, and we had to be like, yeah, no. You lot had us last year. You got us last year, and you did. And we had to hold that, and we had to hold it differently. But now, no, it's different. We've learned from that, and we're going to dig in, and we're going to fight till the end. I don't have the energy like Elliot to say it, but he's right. He's absolutely right. Even though it's small and Turkish makes me laugh because he basically calls me a dreamer. You know what I mean? We know how Turkish is. You know what I mean? But that little piece of hope, as long as it's there, I will hold on to it, because what can we do? Until it's over, it's not over.
It's fueling the players, so it should fuel the fans.
Yes.
Talk to us about Kivior very quickly. He's done brilliantly.
He has been now almost. Arteta's gonna have, well, when Saliba comes out, he's almost gonna have a selection headache because he had a few shaky moments coming in, but I feel like he's just grown into the games much more, and I feel like we're starting to trust him more. He's starting to believe in himself more. And when you have a manager that is Arteta, who's good at taking care of young players and everything else, you need that around you right now. And I feel like because of the group we are right now, I think he's in the perfect place to flourish, and he just needs to keep believing and keep trying and keep going. But Kiwior, he's practically starts the next game. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's where he is right now, and it's the best compliment he can give himself.
Yeah, he looks very, very composed, I have to say. I didn't think for one second today that the occasion was getting to him. So fair play to him.
No, at
Dini, sorry that we're keeping it so short and sweet, but glad we managed to get some thoughts from you. Anytime. Boys, stay blessed, and you know what? Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, man.
Love, brother.
See you soon. Who have we got next? Sorry? Oh, that's it. Oh, I cut Dini off quickly for nothing. But there is all sorts going on as well, so we can take the headphones off. Obviously, a lot of you will be watching West Ham versus Man United. Head over to DR Sports right now to go watch that watch along and all the coverage from that game. And of course, there is the F1 later on Track GP. Go check all of that out. What a day of support we've got, and fan cams are coming out on AFTV as we speak. It's been an absolute pleasure, Nick. Thank you so much, man. It's been great sharing the information station with you, and of course the full-time show and FANZONE. And remember that you can have your say on this show. Just download the app. It's all free to download, free to subscribe, register, all that, and you can just have your thoughts here live on the show with us straight after the game. What a win for Arsenal. Do I believe? I
do.
I'm awake again.
I'll
put it that way.
I believe. Come on.
Yeah.
We have to.
Let me put it this way. I absolutely believe we can get to 90.
Yeah.
We're 9 points off 3 games ago. I think we can get to 90. I think this team, the way they performed this season, they deserve to get to that 90 mark. But will City slip up?
If my belief matters to the players, then I believe.
Everton away, Chelsea at home, Brighton away, Brentford away. Those are City's last 3 games.
Yeah.
4 games.
And we have to also keep winning our games as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
You know, we'll be reacting to it. I can't. I'm getting excited. Okay, we're going to leave it there. Big thanks. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you very soon.